here today to interview George Graham, to talk about his life growing up in Lakefield and his businesses and all the events that he was involved with over the years. And I was pleased to be asked to do this interview, George, because having grown up in the village and being born in the village and growing up here and knowing your family and going to school with two of your oldest children, it's very appropriate that I do this. And I also, before we start the interview, I'd like to congratulate you on a milestone that's coming up in a few days, your 100th birthday. And I think that's wonderful. And I'm sure on the 23rd of April you're going to have a wonderful celebration with your family and friends on that day. So congratulations.
Thank you.
So we're going to begin with your own family that you grew up in. You had 12 brothers and sisters. And
Two sisters and 10 brothers.
2 sisters and 10 brothers. Perhaps you could tell us a bit about your life growing up with 2 sisters and 10 brothers.
I guess it was a pretty busy life, but I couldn't tell you much about, the family. I mean, we all got along all together pretty good, and I guess we had the odd little scrap and like another one of our kids, but we got along, had a good father and mother.
Hi, George.
Mary Smith has arrived, George.
Oh,
Oh, George, sorry I'm late.
anyway, what else do you want to know about the family?
Well, tell us where you were born before you came to Lakefield.
Oh, I was born in Duluth, Minnesota. Came to Lakefield when I was 6 years old. And we lived in a house just back of a Spencer's store for a while, and for some reason we had to move out of there, and we moved up in the hotel up on, I don't know if you remember, there was an old hotel right on the corner there. And we moved upstairs in that.
Is that the hotel
Well,
where Grace Young's is, or the other corner?
the other corner, where the post office is.
Yeah, where your creamery used to be.
Yeah,
Okay.
it was, there was a gas station there, I bought, and the creamery, and there was another house back of the creamery there, a little insurance office.
Right.
And,
So you lived in the hotel for a while,
yes,
and then where did you go?
well, we went to the farm, but I can't, moved on to the farm in Smith, but I can't just tell you what date this was or anything like that. I know that's where I went to school. I went to school in Lakefield just for a short while, and I was lived down in the basement there, or school was down in the basement.
Right.
Then we moved to Smith, and I was up there for quite a number of years. And then my parents, they moved to Lakefield. I didn't move. I went to work with another farmer. And on the 17th, I worked for him for 4 years.
Now, prior to working for him, you worked for your father on the farm.
Oh yes, yes. That's what happened. He kept me out of school, so much to work, and I decided that it wouldn't go any longer. So I quit, and of course he never said nothing. So I didn't get much schooling, but I got lots of work.
So you left school when you were young and worked on the farm for your father, and then you worked for a neighbor farm, you said?
Yeah, John Harrison, his name was. He was a wonderful couple they were.
And how, you mentioned something about how you worked.
Well, we worked like more or less together, and today, I maybe cut a field of hay, and he cut a field of the next field. Well, 50-50 on everything we done. He never done any work that he didn't work with me 50-50. He was good that way.
So he did one chore one day and you do the opposite chore
That's right,
and the next day you'd reverse.
reverse,
So you learned how to do all his work.
all the work. All the- Put me on a binder and cut the grain on mower. He taught me everything.
So you're just a young teenager then?
I was, yes. Wasn't too old.
So after you worked for this gentleman, then you moved to Lakefield?
Well, I decided to go out west,
Oh, all the young men went out west. Okay.
and of course he didn't want me to go, but the farmer, but I went out west, I wanted to change, and I spent the fall out there in the harvest, and I went to a place in Saskatchewan, it's called Saskatoon, or, but not, I forgot the name, Takaski, little
I've
town.
never heard of Takaski.
Little town I went at. Came home and done the work around the cement works and
So you just spent one summer out west?
no, but I worked a while at home again, and then I took an option
Oh.
to go back out again
Okay.
west. And I went this time up to a place called Blaine Lake. There were German people, and they were nice people to work for. I worked there for the summer, for the rest of the year, come back home, and I went to work on the hydro building there, the powerhouse there. I worked on that powerhouse for about a year and a half. I worked on the Smith Towers down there too. But,
So you're still a young person when you worked on the cement
oh yes.
silos and
Oh yes.
worked on the hydroelectric station?
Yes.
And so do you remember some of the other people you worked with on the building the cement works?
Well, not so much on the cement work, but I worked with Purse Hill. We were at the powerhouse. We were putting wire in the forms for the cement, you know.
Oh, yes, yeah.
And I worked there.
Sort of reinforcing the cement?
Yes,
Right.
yeah, I worked with him. But I don't remember where I went after that.
I read something where you worked for a man that made wooden barrels.
Oh, yes, Henning, yeah, oh, that was Mr. Kingdon, Horrible Kingdon,
Mr. Kingdon.
yes.
And somehow you got attached to that family, I hear.
Well.
You met a young lady working there?
Mel, my brother-in-law, he was son of Mr. Kingdon. We quite friendly with one another. We chummed around a lot. And he had a girl, Ethel Theobald, her name was. She used to come up on the weekends, and Leona, my wife, she came up too. She worked at the Westhocks in Peterborough, but she came up, and that's how I got acquainted. And
Uh-huh.
she used to come up. We worked on Saturdays. We worked 6 days a week then. And she used to come up and talk to us
Right.
Saturday. And I don't know, I just got nerve enough to make a date with her. So I used to have an old Star car, well, it wasn't old at that time, and I used to take Mel and his girlfriend back to Peterborough, and I'd take Leona back too.
You sure it wasn't a car that attracted them, was it?
I think so.
Yeah. Not the two good-looking fellows?
I think so.
So, your wife Leona was the daughter of the,
Yes.
the man that owned the barrow company that you worked for.
That's right.
So, I think that's a pretty important business in Lakefield in those days.
Yeah, I worked there, and he got caught up in well, there were barrel heads, that's what they were, mostly all made there. He didn't make any kind of staves or anything, and he got caught up in he sold them down in Trenton, but they couldn't take any more for a while, so he said, I'm gonna have to lay you off, he says. So I said, if you could get another job, he says, get it, because I'll be off for a couple of months more. But anyway, I went over to see a man with the name of Dave Pugh, who owned the dairy, creamery at that time. And I asked him if I heard that the man that was picking up his cream was going to move to Bob Cajun with another chap to start the dairy up there. So I said, asked him if he needed any help. He said, no, not at this time. He said, and the next day I had a call. Well, I don't know when I could go to work. Yeah,
So that was your start in working at the dairy and working in the creamery business?
Yep, that was in 1927. And
So,
I worked there for Henry Younger and Charlie Hunter. I bought it from Charlie Hunter in '44 and sold it in '60.
you bought the business you started working there in 1927?
27.
And you bought the business in 1944?
Yeah, but when I bought the business, it was just the creamery. After I got going a while, first Darling, he put his dairy up for sale, and I bought it.
So you combined his business with yours?
With mine, and later on, Glenwood Farms, his dairy went up for sale, and I bought it. I put the two together then, you see.
That was Glenwood Farms?
Yeah.
That was Clarence
Clarence
Coons?
Coons, yes.
Okay. So when was that?
Oh, I can't tell you the dates.
It was in the 1950s?
It would be probably in the late 40s or 50s.
Early 50s.
Yeah.
So you're like the big conglomerates today. You're buying up all the businesses and cutting out the competition. That's what it sounds like.
Anyway, Vince Hickey was buying the bottom up for to feed his hogs, and for some reason, I don't know what happened, that he quit feeding hogs, and we were dumping the buttermilk down on the swamp. And then we called that the swamp. Anyway,
That was along the railway tracks there, or
Yeah.
down by his place?
yeah, down in we called it the swamp down in there, and it was the swamp at that time.
Right.
And anyway, I decided that I'd try and buy a farm. So this farm come up for sale, and two salesmen come in, and I wasn't thinking of it at the time. These two salesmen come in and wanted to know if I would be interested in buying a farm. So they told me where it was and everything. I said, no, I have no money to buy a farm. I can't afford to buy a farm now. But everybody says, make me an offer. Well, I made them an offer, $5,000, and it wouldn't be any more than a half an hour to go back and say, you bought yourself a farm. So
now you're a farmer.
I was a farmer. I bought hogs and put them in the barn, and hired a man to feed them and that. That's where the Butterville went. And
Where was that farm? Where was it located?
well, you know where the county home is.
Yes.
Well, just up past that, the first farm on the left, there's a stone house there in the barn.
Yes.
That's the farm I bought
That's
there.
the farm.
Who'd you buy that from, George?
I'm trying to think of who it was. I know who it was, I could,
Yeah, okay,
if
yeah.
it had come out,
Mm-hmm.
but anyway. Then I had hogs for, I guess, about 3 years, and the hog prices went down, and there was no money in them, and I decided I'd get out of the hogs. So I thought I'd buy some beef cattle, and I started to buy beef cattle. I don't know how I got into milk cows, but anyway, I thought I'd start a dairy. So I bought a bunch of cows and put on the farm there, and had 2 hired men working for the farm, milking the cows. Were nice, but they ran about 25 cows. Well, I kept that for quite a while. I had sold the dairy, and I kept that for quite a while, and I decided that, oh, the interest was way up, and I said, I could make more money in interest than keeping all these cows. So I sold the cows and broke up the farm in 10-acre lots. I forget how many lots I had. I think I stopped and counted them, but anyway, a number of lots, and sold them. And sold the farm and the land after I sold the lots, the rest of them. And I had another farm up at the 10th line of Smith there. I bought that where to put the dry cows and young cattle up there. Wouldn't have room limit barn with that, so I had the 2 farms then, but I sold them both of them. I don't know.
I'd just like to go back to the dairy business and just get you to talk about that a bit. I do have a note here that it was either 1957 or 1958 that you bought Glenwood Farms from Clarence Coons,
Yes,
and that after you joined the Darling and the
yeah,
Coons dairies with yours, you were producing about 3,000 to 4,000 quarts of milk a day in the summertime.
yes,
That was an awful lot of milk, and a lot of that milk was delivered by milkmen to directly to the houses.
yeah, there was 2 milkmen. Isn't that funny? I can,
Les Kidd?
Les Kidd, yes, Les was, and the other one was the driver that,
Hockaday?
no, it wasn't. I can't
I
think
can't
of,
remember who came to our house. I remember it coming, but
you know, it was the driver that same, the Coons had it.
Oh,
Horse.
Laverne Walton.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. Yeah.
so you had 2 men delivering milk door to door.
Door to door, and then in the summertime, we had a truck going around to Somerville, Missouri, it's not.
Okay. Now, we all remember in the wintertime when the milkman brought the milk to the house, and we all had an outside milk box, and you put the bottle of milk in. When you went out, you know, a little bit too late to take your milk off, the cream was already pushed out of the bottle with the top sitting on top of the
That's
frozen.
right.
You can still picture that today.
Yeah.
Excuse me, you can tell a little bit about one of your horses anyway, Dad, that you had.
Oh, for
Tony.
delivering milk.
Tony delivered.
Tony was one of them. The kids used to, I don't know, around Dave Miller's barber shop there, they used to feed Tony sugar, you know. And he would take the last stop there, and he'd walk down and he'd stop there, and they'd feed him sugar. But one day, I don't know what made him, but he went right home to the barn.
Tell them where the barn was.
Oh, it was down near the Smithers or somewhere.
Your barn was right in the backyard of our house.
Oh, well, that wasn't,
Well, that wasn't the one?
that wasn't the time they went
Oh.
home. He went, it was down the other one, he went home.
So you had the wagon on behind him when he
Oh, yes,
went home by himself?
Went
He
home.
was well trained. You'd be worried where he was.
oh, we had a pretty good idea.
Somebody could have taken him for a ride and not brought him back. But did you deliver butter to the houses as well?
Well,
As
they
milk?
delivered butter when they were
delivering the milk?
Yes, and cream and whatever. And we did for a while deliver eggs too, but that didn't last too long.
Now, who are some of the people that worked for you in the creamery or the dairy?
Gosh.
Rex,
Fantasy.
Rex
Rex,
Hennessy?
he picked up cream. And,
Do you remember any?
Fred Hockaday.
Fred Hockey was there.
Fred Hockey.
Did Warren Northey work for you? Warney Northey?
Freddie did for a while.
Freddie, morning, Northern.
Yeah.
Roy Hockaday.
Oh, yeah, Roy Hockley.
Um,
You had some young people work there too,
Oh,
I
yeah.
understand, like the video.
No, George. I came after George. I
You were
worked for
after
Alan and Don
Okay.
Good.
Yeah.
Big Diesel McConnell.
Diesel,
Yeah.
yeah.
But you had I understand your children worked in the farm, or in the dairy.
I wouldn't let them work.
That isn't a rumor I heard.
Yes, take them over every morning to wrap butter. Yeah.
Now, and what else did you have them do besides wrap butter? They must have done a few other things, didn't you?
tested cream.
Well, I took a course in Lindsay, and then she tested the cream and tested the milk.
When the war was on, we had war stamps, and that was our first job, putting the war stamps on the,
Oh, all right, forgot about the war stamps.
Yeah, and we had to turn, before they wrapped the butter, we had to turn the corner of the wrappers, so when you picked up the wrapper to wrap the butter, it was easier to grasp.
All right.
That was one of our jobs.
Yeah,
we found out later, Uncle Alan told us that he always wanted to get the butter wrapped before we went to school because we were the fastest wrappers. They didn't tell us that until the recent years, so.
oh, they done a good job for me.
Were you a hard taskmaster?
Pardon?
Were you pretty tough on them? They had regular hours that they had to be there and do their work?
Oh, no.
No.
They came there before they went to school, they wrapped butter. And,
If they wanted their breakfast, they had to make sure they.
well,
Got to
we
work.
did have a break and
In the summer.
in the summer, and we made coffee and went over to the store and bought some bundles. That we had coffee and bundles there around about 9 o'clock, I guess. I don't know.
They were yummy.
They all enjoyed that.
Well, I recall a lot of kids going into the creamery after school and walking right in, and there was a pail of buttermilk
That's
sitting on the
right.
floor, and we could take the dipper and dip it in and have a drink of buttermilk. Do you think that would be allowed today?
No, I don't think so.
Was Ruby Nichols with you there?
Yes,
And,
Yeah.
and Evelyn Samus.
Yeah,
Mrs.
right, yeah,
Samus.
yeah,
Well,
Yeah.
yeah. Now, I picked up a story, George, something about some wrestling matches behind the dairy. Do you know anything about that?
oh, we used to wrestle.
And something about you challenged this man that worked for Teddy Crawford at the meat place. But
We had lots of
and half the village. They pretty near closed the downtown down to go up and witness this wrestling match.
Oh, I didn't know.
Well, I know we used to wrestle once in a while, that's cool. That was before I owned it, I was working there then.
Oh,
He told me he wasn't into sports. He was a wrestler. There must have been some money on the line, was there, George?
Oh, no, it was just fun.
Just who was the strongest, was that? Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Well, Dad, when you first started into business, you had a partner,
Yeah,
Harry Wanamaker.
and Harry Wanamaker. He was a school teacher, and of course, he still kept a school teacher's hours. He'd come around 8 o'clock in the morning, and when it got about 5 o'clock, he'd quit, but I'd be working from 6 o'clock in the morning till 8 or 9 at night. Anyway, Freddie Wanamaker passed away, and Harry thought he'd like to take that over, and he asked if I would buy him out. Well, I was happy to buy him out. So anyway, he got it on the loan. I was alone, and I was far better off because I was putting nearly double the hours that he was. But anyway,
No, in reading some newspaper articles, you were the owner-operator for 16 years of the, whether you called it the dairy or
Yes.
the creamery,
Yeah.
Lakefield Creamery. And you mentioned who you bought it from, but you end up selling that in 1960.
yes, to my brother Don Wood and Alan.
To your brother Alan and
Don
to
Good.
Don Good.
Yeah.
And that's when you eventually went into your farming.
Well,
You're a little too young to retire, so you went into
well, that's when I went down
the
quite a bit
pig
of my
business
farm,
and
yes.
your sort of your volunteer life. You
Oh, I was on the fire brigade for a number of years. I have, I don't know what you call it. Oh,
An award.
pardon?
Certificate?
Yeah,
And
certificate
medal.
from the fire department, yeah, for 30 years of fire, on the fire, yeah.
what other volunteer activities did you do? Do you recall? Besides school board and politics and. There were some, I'm trying to think of the names of the Clementi Lodge and things like that. Did you belong to those, any of those?
Yeah, I belong to Clementi Lodge, yeah.
That was up over Mucker Hall store?
Story, yeah. Yeah, I went through the chairs, I was through the chairs of the lodge, and I was the master of the lodge.
You also were a hunter and a trapper. Would you like to tell us a little bit about that?
Oh, God. Well, when we was on the farm, it was part of our march was the farm. And we trapped muskrats every spring. And of course, that's where we made a little money, extra money. So anyway, we finished trapping, and we decided to go back to Eagle Lake. I hunted back there with the Nicholses, and I knew the country pretty good. There was a lot of marshes back there. So Claire Chittick, he had a truck. He trucked us. We hired Claire Chittick to take our canoes and stuff back to Ketchikoma Lake. And the ice was still on there then, and we had a jumper. Pull the sleighs on the jumpers on up into Little Gold, Big Gold. We had to go through Little Gold and Big Gold and then across into that time it was Eagle Lake, it's answer the lake now. And there's a camp over there, there's the hunt camp we used to hunt in, and we stayed in that hunt camp and trapped from there, and then we decided, we had a tent with us, and we decided we'd pitch the tent up at the head of Eagle Lake and at another little lake, and we used to set traps in the morning and one and pick up any rats that we had there, and then we'd move on up to the next lake, and we'd look at the traps up there. And then the next, we'd stay up there in the tent, and the next morning we'd get up and look at the traps up there, and then and move down to the other one. We were reversing all the time, back and forward. So,
Who would be with you on that, George?
my brother Walter,
Right.
and we run out of food. And I took notice that we didn't want to go quit trapping because there was some marshes we hadn't trapped in. So I decided I'd go walk to Lakefield, and I just walked from Anstruther Lake or Eagle Lake right across to the Oregon Trail, right through the bushes. The foolish thing I ever done, I guess. I should have never done it, but I did. And I got to Lakefield around 4 o'clock that afternoon, and my brother had a Ford coupe. I got the groceries and put it in the Ford coupe, and way back I went to Anstruther, not Eagle, Ketchikoma, and I left the car back there. Shop that lived back there, and I walked from there right across through the country, right up to the lake. I don't know how I done it, but I did. It was, you could have broke a leg or something, you know. But
Yes, you could have been,
oh, terrible, but it was nothing to do. But
that, many people probably did trapping in those days as
oh
well.
yes.
Did you have a little competition back in those areas?
Not there, no. It was all
Nobody stealing your traps or?
No, no. No, we didn't have any competition there.
So you worked basically out of your hunt camp and set up traps on the different lakes?
Yes.
And so that would be you'd be doing that just the winter time or
In the spring,
in the springtime?
yeah, in the spring, yeah.
So you must have known the trails pretty well.
Oh, well, I hunted back there, you know, and I knew a lot of the places where I hunted. That's what brought me back there, you know.
Right.
Oh, I knew a lot of lakes and marshes. Oh, there was one place there that we took a trip around. There was a creek. We decided we'd go around this creek. It took us pretty near all day to come around the circle. We come back. I went up from Clear Lake up there and right clean around. I don't know how far I went, but right. We were almost all day going around there. That was just in the canoe paddling to see what it was like.
Paddling and portaging
Yeah,
from one lake to another.
one lake to the other.
Well, that'd be a pretty good sport itself.
Oh, yes.
In the canoeing.
Then we, a bunch of us used to go back to Eagle Lake in the summer. That was after I was married. There was three or four families of us, and we were going up through Raddy's Narrows, and I can remember Leona. You know, on some rocks or something, it was a rapid too, you know, you had to go. She jumped right out of the canoe.
She didn't want to run the rapids.
Well, she walked right up through the rapids,
Oh.
pushed the canoe. Then there was a little dam up there when we come home. And we run the dam, we didn't down over there. They wouldn't go down, but Oh, there was Freddie Wanamaker, Mike Wanamaker, and the other wives, and we'd sit in the canoe and go down over the dam just to play.
So I'd call that a bit of sport.
Oh, we had fun, we made our own fun.
I think, yes, in those days you did make your
Yeah,
fun,
we
own
made our
fun,
own fun.
right. I want to talk a bit about your political life. You served on school boards and village council and county council. And you served on the Lakefield High School board from 1955 to 1968. And you also served on the regional school board.
Yeah,
Could you tell us a bit about that? Is there was there some special achievements that your board accomplished at that time, or did you have some real issues at that time? Like, they don't have any issues today, but did you have issues in those days?
oh, no,
None?
not too much, no. Yeah, things went all
You
right.
mean there was lots of money in those days?
Oh, well, at that point, you only got so much from the government, that's it, that's it.
Do you recall who some of the people were on say, the local board back in the 50s?
Oh, gosh.
Do you know some?
The Wheaton, wasn't it?
Oh, Bill Wheaton.
Oh, Bill Wheaton was one of them.
Gerald Tedford was another.
Gerald Tedford?
Yes, Gerald Tedford,
Wally Pearson?
Wally Pearson, yeah.
You were on with Denise, when Denise,
Denise Edwards, she was.
yeah. Wasn't she chairperson?
Pardon?
You were on with Denise at one time, weren't you?
Oh, yeah, Denise Edwards. Oh,
Okay.
okay. Manchester was the principal.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, I don't know, he wasn't too well with the teachers, you know. Anyway, Denise went around and she found out that we were all against the principal but 3. Well, then he found out that she went around, and that he went at her, and she had her crying, oh my God.
Little Mr. Manchester.
Yeah.
I can't imagine Denise crying, but
Oh, yeah, he went right at her. And she gave me hell because I wasn't sticking up for her. I was sticking up for it. I said, what could I do? I couldn't stop him.
so was the
Dear.
new high school built
Yes,
in your time?
yes. I was on the first 2 sections.
And would you also was the intermediate school built in your time, or was that later?
That was later. See, I wasn't on the last one, no.
Okay.
There was 2 sections built and the one after. I wasn't on the last part.
And when they built the new high school, a decision was made then to tear down the old school.
I don't remember anything about that.
Just wonder what kind of an issue that was at that time. But
I remember it being torn down, I don't remember too much about it.
you're also a counselor in the village from 1939 to 1945, and also again in the late 1960s.
Yeah.
You were a deputy reeve in 1971, and you became the reeve in 1973. Who were some of your council members at that time? There'd be Jack Chitty.
Jack was one.
Harold Hammond.
Harold Hammond was another one. I took over, well, that's when I started Reeve, I was deputy Reeve. Harold Hamlin was on, and Jack Titty took sick. And I took over as Reeve, and then when it come to run for Reeve again, I ran, but I got back in, and I spent another 2 years then.
Was there any real issues in that time that you had to deal with?
Well, there probably was, but I forgot.
Was there anything that happened that was an accomplishment in the village? Like, I'm trying to remember when the water system came in, for example. When did that happen? Was that in your time?
Yes, it was. Water and sewers in my time, yeah. And they had a couple of bridges in my time.
So they replaced the cement bridge with the,
Yeah.
I guess, what is it? Stainless steel bridge, I guess?
Oh,
The black bridge and the white bridge.
Hmm?
The black bridge and the white bridge.
The black bridge and the white bridge.
the black bridge
Well,
was
the
a,
black steel.
Yeah, the
one and
first
Yeah.
bridge over the canal was
Over
the
the
black,
canal,
the
yeah.
black
yeah,
iron structure,
Yeah.
Mm.
yeah. So both, and the other one was the cement bridge,
Cement
the one you
bridge.
referred to as the white bridge. So they were replaced with the present bridge that's there today. Did you have any issues with the dock or the wharf in those days like they have today? Do you recall?
oh, yes, I remember of, there used to be a little, I don't know, the bandstand or a little building out there, you maybe
Oh,
remember.
at the marina, at the wharf,
Yeah,
the pavilion?
yes,
Not the dance pavilion, the passenger pavilion?
yes.
Yes.
And there was somebody, I don't know the name of the man, I didn't know now. He either drove in or backed in or what, his car went in the canal there. Of course, the siren blew and we told us there was a car in that lake up there. Of course, we're firemen, but I never stopped. When I got there, I jumped right in. And the window was down and I pulled the lady out, but she was drowned dead when I pulled her out. He was standing on the top of the car. I can remember that so well. But to jump right in and I could swim, but not that, but I never thought
So
many
you,
days.
so you just automatically went into the rescue,
Yeah,
and you got the lady out, but it's
got the
unfortunate she
lady
was
out, but
dead.
she was dead. It worked on her, but
So you went there as a call as a volunteer fireman? So that was at the wharf there, the marina. Did you, was the dance hall still
Yes,
going then?
yes.
That was some of the name bands used to go in there in the summertime.
Well, I never had much to do with dancing then, but the dance hall looked pretty strong there for quite a while.
And the steamboats were, I guess the Islinda was still coming in then.
Linda, and he used to stop at the wharf there and take stuff up the lakes in the summer months, you know.
Right.
And people would take groceries up there. And, Linda took a lot of stuff up.
Did they ever deliver milk on the
Not
Islinda that you recall?
No. But I used to go, the Stony Lake used to come down there occasionally. I used to go, well, a bunch of us used to go Stony Lake to Wild Cajun Fair. We did square dance all the way up and all the way back. And that happened for, I guess 4 or 5 years.
Mhm. Where did that run from, Peterborough to Wild Cajun?
I don't know, that's from Lakefield, but I think it was, I think it run from Peterborough too, but it was used to go from Lakefield right on up to
Right.
Wild Cajun. pick up some people all the way up in Buckhorn. So,
The island around between Lakefield and Stony Lake,
yeah,
Young's Point and Stony Lake.
yes.
In 1976, you became the county warden. And
Yes.
A news article I read said you're the first warden from Lakefield since Bill Grant in
That's right.
1955.
That's right.
And it said that you sat on 6 standing committees. And I'm just wondering how you had time to run a business and be a warden and sit on 6 committees.
I wasn't in business at that time. Not in '76.
Okay. So you
Well, you had to just pack your suitcase, you never run out of it, you just go. You went to all the fairs and you officially opened them and that, and I opened a lot of fairs.
It'd be a similar makeup as today. There'd be the township reeves.
Oh,
There was-
yeah, there's different countries, reason that they get together, you know, their meetings.
Mhm. Were the issues in those days similar to what they are today? Again, trying to find enough money to do whatever you needed to do.
Oh, yes, they were at that time, yes.
Was there anything special that happened in the county that you recall at your time as a warden?
I could have been, but I can't remember.
I don't remember now. It indicated you're on, your committees were roads, parks and recreation,
Yes,
agriculture, property,
property,
tourism,
yeah,
and I guess general administration.
that's right.
So you sat on all those committees and
Well, a lot of them.
kept those fellows on the straight and narrow. Is it?
I went around all the fall fairs and officially opened them. Oh, gosh, that was awful.
You didn't look forward to that?
Oh, terrible. Well, you had to speak to every one of them, and there was Earl Cuddy, he was the reeve at that time, and he helped me make a list to talk about, you know. He done a good job, but I just changed that list from one fair to the other, made it a little different, you know, but on the same thing. That was the worst, I was going around all the fairs officially up.
Well, they would be all summertime though, of course.
Oh, yes, oh,
Be
yes.
nice weather.
Oh, nice weather, oh, yes. But you were going all the time.
We haven't talked about your immediate family yet. And we talked about you meeting your wife, that you were married in 1931,
Right,
and you have 3 children.
right.
2 of those children are with us today, and Ruth and Barbara. And John is in Ottawa today. Can you tell us a bit about your family life?
Well, I had a good family life. I was married for 68 years, so I never had any problems with my children at all. They were all good.
Well, they were good schoolmates, and I know that Harold had a good schoolmate and your
Yeah.
son John. They were
Yeah.
Good pals. Now, where did you obviously lived more than one home in Lakefield. Where were your homes with your family?
Mostly on Commander Street.
That's the Pen and
Yeah.
Quill today. That's the bread and breakfast house today is where your family grew up pretty
I
well.
don't know, there's a bread and breakfast or something like that.
Yeah.
Yes,
So and then from that house you Well, you ended up buying some properties,
Well,
not for your farms
no,
specifically.
this, I had bees. I don't know how I got into bees, but I got into colonies of bees. And I had them at the back of the house on Clementi Street, and I had too many of them. So one day I met Fred Norris. He had an old sawmill where my house is, the house over there on this property. And I said to Fred, I said, you wouldn't be interested in selling that property down there, I told him, but I wanted some place for my bees. And oh, he says, I guess so. He says, I'm no use for it. So I asked him what he wanted for it. He says, oh, $25 an acre. I bought 3 acres, $75.
Does Sweeney know this, does he?
That's where I put my bees. And then the bear got at him and tore him to pieces. Twice the bear tore him. I had to get out of them.
And you bought some more property here. You bought property 3 different
Oh,
times,
yeah,
didn't you?
well, I bought that first, and then I decided that's where I was going to retire, and we built a house there. And
So that's the red brick house across the
that's
road
right.
from this
across the
building
road,
here.
yeah. And I wasn't any more in there a year or two, and I forget the name of the lady. She was a vet. Van Allen, I think it
Yeah.
was.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I forget her name, but anyway, she wanted to sell the property, and I bought the field in front of the house, 8 acres. I paid her $1,000 an acre. And anyway, it was an acre and a half behind her house there, and about a year after she came back and wanted to know if I'd buy the rest of it, and I said, okay, I bought it. I had some surplus money, I'd sold the dairy, and I had some surplus money, and anyway, I bought it. So I lived there at that house for 31 years, and then along come Extendicare, and they looked at that 3 different times before they bought it, and I sold it to Extendicare.
You sold that in 1999?
Oh, I forget.
I think it was 99.
It couldn't have been, whatever.
So this building here is sitting in your
On my,
parkland, your garden,
yes, right in front of the house there now.
right? And the room that you're in, what's your room number?
408,
408. Now,
Trent.
what garden patch is that sitting on?
Well, it's the same.
What were you growing there with that part of the building
Oh,
sitting on?
mostly grain and hay. But most all my garden was just out in front of the house there,
Oh,
and about.
Your vegetable garden.
Yeah, about an acre there, the rest put it in hay,
So
Well,
you're out on the pasture land then.
yeah.
So you sort of come full circle, didn't you? Yeah.
I dug a pond there,
Oh, yes.
and I put some fish in it. And I got some nice fish there. I'd some trout there that were about 18 inches long. And some nice big bass there. But after I sold it, I didn't bother, the kids got that window, but they got over, and I think they fished most of them. There was some lovely trout and bass in there.
There wasn't some young kids that around about John's age that were fishing in there, really?
It could have been, I don't know.
Harold wouldn't admit to it, but
Oh, they didn't have the pond then.
No.
did not have it then?
He had a bigger problem with his brothers, I think, than the young lads.
Yes, they would fish.
I hear you had a little problem with the Conservation Authority or something.
Oh, on
over
the
your pond.
floodland all the time there. Oh, I couldn't do nothing. Floodland. And, oh, I went to court once, we beat them, but they cost me money.
But didn't you get a permit or something to be allowed to build that pond?
Oh, yes.
And they,
No, I didn't get a permit. I phoned Lindsay. And
the Department of Lands and Forests? or-
yeah, I guess it was, yeah, and they said, oh, go ahead, no problem, as long as it's not connected to any stream.
Mhm.
So I, oh, then, they took me to court then about a year after I dug the pond here. But I won there, but it cost me money.
Used to cut all the grass around all the property,
Oh, yeah.
12 acres
Just
of
like
grass.
a park.
Yeah, you had a good riding mower then, I guess,
Oh,
did you?
yes, yes.
Used to shoot some golf out in the field.
That's where you practiced your golf, okay.
And the kids done a lot of it, at their golf,
Right.
play ball.
That's where you learned your golf as well?
Younger children than us.
Yeah.
Oh,
The grandchildren used to do some tricks on them.
oh, well,
So you're right back on your property, and did you kind of have that planned when you sold the property, did you?
no, I didn't. I bought a house over on Regent Street,
Yeah,
where Elmer is now.
and so I understand you came in here for a trial month.
Oh, well, I decided, you know, I'd come in here, and it was in March. I can remember the date was March the 27th. And I talked to them, and they said, well, at least 10 to 12 months before you could get in. So the two here persuaded me to go. I didn't really want to go, but they persuaded me to go. And I went, and I got 30 days, and when the 30 days was almost up, I don't know, I sent to one of the nurses or staff, I don't know what it was, but anyway, so I guess I'm going to be leaving you here in a day or so. And she said, we'll see about that, and I thought, that's funny, why would she say we'd see about it? But anyway, I get the call the next day, I'm here permanent. So I never left from the day I come to this.
So you tell me that you take your walk every day,
Oh,
and
yeah,
you know your way around through all the buildings,
oh, yes, there's no problem that way.
and you know a lot of the people in here.
Oh, that's a lot, but there's a lot of you can't talk to, you know, there's a few. Yeah, I know a lot of them.
Do you have any other comments?
George, I'm dying to ask you, tell us all about Big Cedar Lake. A lot of memories. When did you go back there?
Oh, I forget the year, but I had a lot of memories of trapping back there and one thing another.
Well, I was about 16, like, so how long, so we won't talk about how long.
No, we won't talk about it.
No.
But it
50
was,
some years
yeah,
ago.
it's a long time.
But you had a cottage there?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Now, that would have been Crown land, would have been when you got it? Would you have purchased from the Crown?
That's on Cedar Lake,
Yeah,
Big Cedar.
Big Cedar, yeah.
yeah. Oh, yeah, I bought that, I was hunting back there.
Oh, yeah.
And for some reason, it come up for sale, Crown land. And I decided I'd buy a lot, and the lot I wanted was, my neighbor bought it. Yeah,
That was Frenchy, was it?
yeah, he bought it. But anyway, I bought the lot next to him.
Wasn't it $300? I think
Wasn't very much,
it was 300.
I forget what it was now, it wasn't very much money. And I had to build within a year, I think it was, or something like that. And so we put up a shack there. And I can remember when we moved into it, first night we moved into it to stay, it was a weekend, I guess, because it was raining and John was 3 years old. And Leona was carrying John and I was carrying some groceries. We had to walk, we couldn't drive right in there. And we had to walk part way in. And it was raining. And I can remember that so well. we were wringing wet when we got there.
Yeah.
Was that, does Arnold, Brother Arnold have a cottage on?
Yes,
Is that a big
yeah,
cedar?
he bought that from Art Kingdon, I think he did. Yeah, Art had one of his art
Mhm.
showers. No, he was in with Art, I forget how that worked.
Yeah, they did, they were together,
Huh?
yes.
I forget, but anyway, Art, he decided he didn't want it. Then, but a couple of years after, he was sorry he sold it.
Yeah.
We had a lot of fun back there, a lot of good memories, eh, George?
Oh, boy, what a memories.
Dad, you said you weren't very into sports and that, but you curled and you golfed.
Oh, yeah,
So that's sports.
Yeah.
oh, yeah, you forget about these things, you know.
Were you a good curler?
Oh, I could curl all right.
Could you challenge your brother Arnold?
Oh, I curled a lot different.
Yes. Yeah, so
Ranks.
you spent your winters at the curling
Oh,
rink.
at the curling, most winter, yeah.
Yeah. Did you ever curl in the old lean-to on the old rink
Yes,
on,
yes.
I can't think of the street, but
Oh, I know.
near the mill,
Near the mill up there, yeah.
Colburn Street.
Colburn Street,
Oh,
yeah.
and it had a, I don't know what you call it, kind of, up above the rink, you know,
The walkway around?
walk around it, you
Yes.
know. And I can remember so well, Harold Hamlin, a bunch of us up there, and there was a hockey match. And Harold, I don't know what happened to him, but he fell right over and down. He didn't hurt himself too much, but oh God. I think he was a little lightheaded or something.
He'd been into some medicine, had he?
I think so.
Homemade probably. So
Oh,
curling, and you're golfing? Yeah, I remember now, I used to read the write-ups of the curling at Ketchiwanuka
Yeah,
Golf Club, and I'd see your name there.
yeah, oh yeah. Oh,
Yeah, so that was a sort of a fun seniors group that you
yeah,
were with?
well, what happened there was, we were going to Florida every winter, and, you know, that, you had to have something to do, so we decided both we'd take up golf. And that's how we got started in golf out there at the golf course, and we golfed there, and then we golfed in Florida.
Dad was 74 and Mom was 70 when you started.
When you started golfing? Yes. Well, I can remember reading about the seniors group, and I'd see you'd win once in a while, and I thought, gee, you must be a good athlete.
Oh,
Starting at 77, and, yeah. Now, talking about going to Florida, what other travels did you and your wife do?
we went over to Denmark, England, Ireland, Scotland, and Holland. And that was a good, that was 20.
No, was your mother Danish?
Yes,
And your father was Canadian?
born in Lakefield,
And you were born in the United States?
yeah. And they came over here, I don't know what brought them over and that, but he went over to work. And my mother and her brother came from Denmark over there to work. It must have been, I don't know what type of work it was, but anyway, I was 6 years old, I can remember when I come to Lakefield.
Well, we're very, very happy that you did.
Oh,
Now, what would have brought your parents, George, from the United States to Lakefield?
I don't know, but I think it was my Uncle Albert had the homestead. And he started a livery stable in Lakefield. And the farm was vacant. But there was no house on the farm.
Oh.
And anyway, my dad took over the farm, and we rented a house across from Nichols's up there, till he got the house built.
Oh.
Lived up there, lived up in Smith.
So you were in Smith quite a while,
Oh, yes.
and they did some,
I was in Smith when I was 22. With just for the year or so, we stayed in Lakefield before we moved to the farm.
You didn't tell us about working in the United States. You worked over there too.
Oh,
How
yes,
old were
yes.
you when you did that?
I don't know, I went down there, I was over there for 2 years.
Was that after you went out west?
Oh, yes.
what was the Rickenbacker?
That was a car factory,
Oh.
Rickenbacker car factory. I worked there on the assembly line
Was that in Detroit area?
in Detroit,
Rickenbacker.
and I forget, there was 2 or 3 other fellows with me, and I forget now. And they were working in a different part of Detroit, and I decided I'd see if I could get a job over near them, you know, and so I got a job at Timpson Axle Company. And you were grinding, I don't know, you dip it in the soup and you don't know, and you were grinding, mashing the kill, you know. And I was on that for quite a while, and then I decided that I wanted to move up to Highland Park, and I moved up there and had a job working at the, it was a Dodge plant, I think it was a Dodge plant, yeah. And I was putting on fenders on the assembly line there. And then I decided, that's when I decided to come home and go west from there.
So you spent a couple summers out west and then you eventually permanently came
Yeah.
into Lakefield.
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
George, what about the hunting camp back north of Bancroft? Were you one of the original members there?
Yeah,
How did you end up back there? Sorry, Mary.
I don't know. You just get mixed up with them, I guess, and you talk. There's many hunting camps that,
Well, that one, you had that quite a while.
oh yeah.
George, can you tell us a bit about when you were on the fire department for 30 years, were there any big fires that you remember?
Yes, some. There was one of them down at Smith Works, so I can remember. I put the masks on and going to see if there was anybody in there. Oh, God. You kind of forget a lot of that stuff, you know, and it's,
Iron used to, oh yeah.
Were there people killed in that fire?
no,
It was pretty smoky.
yeah, smoky.
Tell them how you found out there was a fire. There was a siren,
Pardon?
when,
Oh, well, the siren broke.
yeah.
Yeah, siren was blowing, you'd hear it, and then it'd take off.
So all the volunteer firemen would,
All volunteers.
Once the siren-
Al Sark was the chief. Then I forget who took over after Al.
Bill Hamlin.
Yeah,
Bill.
that's right. Yeah.
Were you on, George, when the night the canoe factory burnt?
No, I don't think so.
That would be the early 50s, eh?
Yeah, that'd be right.
and there was also different fires downtown. Was there any major fire in the business district when you were volunteer? Did you
Yeah,
recall?
there was fire downtown there. Oh, I kind of forget, there's
Mhm.
a few of them.
There'd usually be a winter house fire, chimney fire,
Oh, be lots of them.
lots of those, yeah.
Well, the creamery cotton fire
Yeah,
one.
I remember that day.
But I don't know why it didn't burn down, because it was,
Mhm.
Lots of chimney fires, but Well, there wasn't that many big fires, you know, but there was a few.
And George, there was one police officer,
Yes,
and what did he do? What kind of,
well, he policed over the whole village.
yeah,
Is that Mr. Samus, Garnet Samus?
Well, he was one, but there was others too. I forget now. Yeah, Garnet Samus was there quite a while.
Price Morris followed him,
Bryce Morris, yeah.
and then
Bryce
Garnet came back.
And I can tell you a story about Garnet Samus. There was a hockey match up at the rink. And Garnet had he was in at the hockey match, and some of the boys jacked up his car and put something on it and just kept it out, the wheels off it. Garnet got in there. Zzz, of course, the wheels just go around, it wouldn't get out. And out about that.
I think you knew him, Garnet.
Old Garnet, yeah. Bryce Morris was 3 people. He was the town cop, your uncle, and your father all rolled into one.
Yeah.
You never went to court, but he straightened the problems out.
You know, it's,
Well,
Yeah.
Garnet was kind of the same.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Bob
Yeah.
said he was good for the kids in the village.
Yeah.
Always getting into some trouble, but it was straightened out with your family.
Yeah, and if
So
if you played hockey, you could do
well,
anything.
you played sports and ball.
yeah,
Yeah, he would, but he was good.
Yeah.
He'd chase you down and give you a talking to and send you on your way.
Yeah,
But talking about tricks on Garnet, Monty Montgomery had the restaurant at where Tiny Hills, the store had been.
Was, yeah.
And Garnet was in having a coffee, and Monty snuck out the back door, went around and shoved a potato in his tailpipe of his car. And Garnet comes out, starts the car, and boom, it just blew the muffler off. And he come back in, and he was just raving mad, and he knew who did it. But Garnet was good for all the kids growing up at that time.
Keith was an awful man.
yeah.
He put peanut butter,
Yeah.
when you, Hermie, you had to put the milk in the fridge. He put peanut butter in back of the handle of the fridge.
Yeah. There were some awful times in there. I remember, George, when the stores in Lakefield all closed on Wednesday afternoon, and everybody went jackrabbit hunting. You were likely in there.
Yes, I was.
And you'd go by Montgomery snack bar, and there'd be dead foxes and rabbits on the roof in the wintertime. Yeah.
And I can remember, I don't know where they got the old fish, but they put fish in my car.
George, I got to relate the time John and I hit the telephone pole in the front yard with your car. The old green Chev.
Yeah,
And
Who was driving?
John was driving. There was Diesel and Harry Jenkins and I. And after a while, you're trying to give us a straightening out over hitting the telephone pole. And you were coming on to us pretty severe, but Uncle Red was standing there. And he brought up, and he reminded us about, lay off the young, what about the time you and Frankish were racing the horses and brought the horses home all lathered?
You should tell some stories about what you used to do out at the 16th.
oh, I didn't do it.
They made their own fun anyway.
Oh, that's right.
Did you want to tell some of those, George?
Well, I had nothing to do with one of them, and I forget it was McConkey. He had a horse, and they cut the horse's tail off the tail.
What about your chicken? Roast.
Well, we used to steal chickens, have chicken roasts, that's like that, you know. And we went in pairs. I went with Charlie Peavy, well, he was a character anyway. And we started up on the 17th with Joe Harris, and we only took a chicken from each one. We got a nice white Wyandotte one from Joe Harris, and then we took across the fields and we went up to Herman Windover's. He lived up on the farm, and we got some there too. And but anyway, when we come to Herman's, I had a, Joe asked, I got a watermelon and a chicken, and Charlie said, you take this and I'll go and steal a chicken from Herman. Well, I just got started to go over and then out come the dog in Herman. Well, I had to take off. I just dropped the watermelon and took off, but I hung on to the chicken.
I heard as a younger generation used to do a little chicken stealing too.
I don't know.
You don't remember that?
No.
No?
Well,
Well, I heard a rumor.
we used to have corn roast too in the fall of the year, and we knew who had some good corn, you know. And so I can remember, I don't know who was with me, but it was in the Fleming's on the 16th there, and we were pulling the corn off, nice corn. All at once the shotgun goes bang. We take off out of there.
Tell them where you got your equipment to cook it and,
Oh, there was an orange hall there, and they always had dinners there, you know.
10 minutes.
They had dishes and everything there, so they had band practice in that hall once a week, and so anyway, when we wanted to get the utensils for the cook, but the band practice night, we unhooked the shutters, unhooked them, and they weren't locked, and then all at once that opened up, put one in the window, got the stuff out for the cook chicken. And we didn't wash it off, we rinsed it off, put it back again.
Well,
he wouldn't allow his children to do things like
no,
that.
not at
though.
all. Don't do what I do. Because I say,
Oh, well, we never done much damage with that kind of thing, but
well, the farmers probably grew an extra few chickens anyway,
Oh,
just so you
sure.
fellows could have it.
I was working up at Jack Armstrong's farm, and he had a chicken house there, and then the step was up about, I would say about a foot, going into the chicken house, but we got a chicken. Anyway, I think we got two there, if I'm not mistaken. And Charlie could twist the handle. Oh, he could take them off like nothing. And we laid the chicken head right on that step there. I said to Charlie, no, we can't do that. Oh, yes, he said. I said, believe me. So anyway, well, the next morning, went out to the barn to milk the cows. I looked at the step, no chicken head there. I got a cat come along.
Which
And he never missed the chicken.
which farm would that be on, George? Is that where the barn burnt?
I don't know where
Jack Armstrong's?
First barn on the right, up on the hill there?
Yeah,
Yeah,
going into Curve Lake Road.
yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Dad, you often told us about that when you were a young lad, that first place you went to live, and how in the morning when, you know, the prayers and,
Oh, that was John Harrison, yeah, well, that, I worked for him for 4 years. Yeah, every morning he was that's why I said he worked, everybody, he shared every job, he'd do this and I'd use cut the hay or the binder or anything I'd done, it was 50-50. But anyway, that was,
well, went before breakfast and that, and
pardon?
talk about,
Oh, every day, every morning, yeah, he'd say a prayer before you eat, and after you eat, he read a piece out of the Bible, and then he'd serve prayer and go to work every morning,
Well, he bought you new overalls, didn't he?
yeah.
And how much a week, how much a month did you get, or what?
I got $40 a month from the board.
And you gave so much to,
Oh, at home I did,
so much to grandma.
yeah.
Well,
He
you-
bought didn't you buy Grandma's first house?
Yeah,
Or one house in Lakefield?
that was at,
The one where she lived until she
yeah.
died.
She had a house and there was a mortgage on it. I forget now how much. We went out west together. Anyway, we went to this farm and it was raining and this chap, the farm we went to, she was, I don't know, she was cook and her son was working there too on the farm. Anyway, we went to town this one, and we went with a team of horses and a wagon, and I guess maybe 5 or 6 miles away from where we were. And I don't know how they got it. They got into some home brew somewhere. I don't know where they got it, but of course, we got drinking the home brew. I can remember when I got back home, I fell out of the wagon. And we were sleeping in a granary on the ground, and we had blankets and whatever. And we got into bed anyway, and I got sick. And I vomited all over Rolly's head. Oh, what a mess. And all the blankets and everything else.
What a friend.
What a oh, I'll never forget that.
Dear.
Well, George, you've given us an awful lot of your time this morning. You've been very gracious about it, and I'd really like to thank you for doing this for the Historical Society. And they've got you on tape now, and they're probably going to be showing this film several times over the years about your life. And so, thank you very much for doing that.
Could we get,
Yes,
can
get
you
the
get
girls
in?
into the
Yeah,
video here.
no,
Oh,
I don't know.